So I know I said we use Sharpie for the 2024 class rankings, but we have just a few tweaks to make. I'll let our director of scouting explain. Plus, it's signing week here at 24/7 Sports. We'll get you ready for National Signing Day on Wednesday with all the latest headlines. And we have a special guest here on the show. Dan Lanning tells us all about his video that broke Twitter and Oregon's upcoming move to the Big Ten. We also have a live commitment. All that and more as the college football recruiting show starts right now. You are taking a live look at Simeon High School in Chicago, Illinois. That's where we will go live for the commitment of defensive lineman Mikeshun Beeler. That is not him at the desk. That is a very terrifying mascot head, but hopefully he will be there soon to tell us where he's headed. So fans of Colorado, Georgia Tech, Indiana, Michigan State, and Oregon, stick around. Alongside Blair Angulo, I am Emily Proud. A reminder to submit your questions in the chat, but the only way you access it is by subscribing to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel, so we highly recommend that. Also, my last ask, please like this video so we know that you're watching. You hit that like button, Blair and I, we're going to go hit the headlines because there is a lot to talk about in the world of recruiting, starting with the top uncommitted prospect in the 2024 class. Well, he is uncommitted no more. Five-star receiver Gatlin Bair declaring his intentions to be an Oregon Duck. He is the final five-star to commit and will have to wait a few years to see him play college ball as he is set to go on an LDS mission. But Blair, what do you think about the fit with the Ducks?
Emily, I absolutely love the fit. I think he's better suited for Oregon's offense than he would have been in Michigan's attack. All-world speed, and he's going to Tracktown, USA. I'm thinking loads of touchdowns for Gatlin Bair and countless celebration push-ups for our guy Puddles the Duck inside Autzen Stadium.
Love it. Fastest man in Idaho. Meanwhile, in the 2025 class, the top-ranked player in Alabama has committed to Ohio State. Corner Naeem Offord joins a top 5 Buckeyes class. The number 6 overall player in 2025 brings what to Ryan Day's group?
Another shutdown corner that gives Ohio State the number 1 and number 2 players at the position in that 2025 class. How do you continue to test a number 1 overall prospect like Jeremiah Smith? Well, you bring in elite corners like Naeem and Devin Sanchez. Those practices in Columbus will be electric.
Whew, love to see those one-on-one battles. National Signing Day is Wednesday, and we could have some five-star fireworks. Terry Bussey, he is verbally committed to A&M, but he took visits to both Aggieland and LSU recently. He's also considering Georgia. So how do you think this one ends up?
This one can go either way here down the stretch. I liked Georgia and where they were sitting coming out of the Polynesian Bowl, and he loved his visit to Athens recently, but A&M is working hard to hold on here late, and LSU continues to make a push. I don't think it would be a surprise if he ended up at either of these 3 schools, and this could feature some National Signing Day dramatics,
which we love to see. Another story we'll be tracking on Wednesday. Former Arkansas signee and top 247 wide receiver Ashton Bethel Roman was at Baylor this weekend. This per our Will Turboff of BearsIllustrated.com. And speaking of 4 stars, that is the theme of our next discussion as we welcome in our Director of Scouting, Andrew Ivins. Andrew, you are adding 19 new 4 stars to the 2024 class ahead of National Signing Day. Some might be wondering, some being me, didn't we already do a final top 247 update? So why do we have the new 4 stars in this current class?
Well, last week, Emily, right, we finalized the top 247 for the 2024 cycle, and we realized we're a little light on our 4 stars. Had about 20, 25 spots to play with. You said 19. We finished with 21 new 4 stars. And I went to my team in the scouting department at 24/7 Sports. I said, I don't want the guys going to the Georgias and the Alabamas. I want some group of 5 signees. And mission accomplished. We got 3 guys going to MAC schools, 2 going to American programs, and 3 FCS signees that are now 4 stars for 24/7 Sports. We're trying to be more conservative with the rankings throughout the entire process. At the end, when we get to the buzzer, we want to be awarding to those 4 stars to prospects we love. Everyone you're seeing up there on the screen, we're big fans of. And most importantly, we think they have long-term NFL development upside. These are guys you could see being selected, priority free agents, but we think their best football is all ahead of them.
Andrew, you've brought it up in our discussion meetings when we are evaluating some of these players and comparing them. And obviously, if the rankings reflect the NFL draft, and you see some of these schools that were on that list have players drafted, I think those rankings obviously have to reflect that. Who are some standouts that you see on that list?
How about Bo Baker, tight end out of Kentucky? This is a kid that is headed to South Dakota State. They've won back-to-back FCS titles, so that's important. But they also had 5 guys in the Shrine Bowl, another guy in the Senior Bowl this past weekend. And you look at the Jackrabbits, they've had 3 individuals selected in the past 2 NFL drafts. Tucker Kraft, one of those tight ends. Bo Baker, for us, is a box checker. We think he's one of the biggest steals out there. Hudson Standish in our scouting department came across this kid, former quarterback, figuring out how to play tight end. He also has an 86-mile-per-hour fastball, had a few NAIA basketball offers, so 3-sport box checker, huge hulking frame. If it doesn't work out at tight end, hey, then we think he could potentially be an offensive tackle. And again, we love what South Dakota State has with their player development in that strength program. Dagan Myers, another guy I want to talk about. His dad won the Jim Thorpe Award back in 1994. This is a kid headed to Colorado State. He had just one scholarship offer, and that was from the Rams. But you turn on the tape, and you see someone flying around making plays in all 3 phases. We debated, hey, do we list him as a linebacker? Do we list him as a safety? You know, he plays some corner. I think this guy's a potential special teams ace. Just ran the 5th fastest 60-meter dash time in the state of Colorado. Look, yes, the NFL looks to the big conferences, but you're going to see it with the NFL draft coming up. It's guys that are coming from all different levels. Colorado State continues to churn out NFL players. Dagan is a guy with NFL bloodline, so we love him. And then finally, Yannick Smith headed to East Carolina. I had a Power 5 source text me, how did this kid not go Power 5? He should have went Power 5. Went to school at Somerville there in South Carolina. Had a heck of a senior season. 69 catches, 1,500 yards, 19 touchdowns. Also ran for 400 and 5 more scores. I got to see him at the Shrine Bowl of the Carolinas. I think he's going to be a focal point for the Pirates in that offense moving forward. Remember, they got a quarterback, Jake Garcia, former Elite 11 finalist. He's now there in Greenville. He's another steal. And really, that was the theme of this list. We were looking for guys that check boxes. Those 3 and everyone else that you can find on 24/7 Sports, they check them as well.
As we get ready for National Signing Day on Wednesday, 24/7 Sports Director of Scouting Andrew Ivins will, of course, be a big part of that show. So let's talk about some potential for drama. Most of the hay, of course, is in the barn. 98% of the top 247 is signed. But what team could be maybe a headline grabber as we wrap up this cycle?
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone in the top 247's committed. I think Terry Bussey is going to be the story of Wednesday. 5-star athlete, longtime Texas A&M commit. You guys mentioned it just a few minutes ago. Took visits to Georgia, LSU. If Georgia were to get him, add him with KJ Bolden, that's a bit crazy because Terry Bussey, is he a wide receiver? Is he a safety? Georgia likes him on defense. LSU likes him on defense. If the Bulldogs were able to add Terry Bussey, it would give Kirby Smart the most points they've had in a recruiting class since 2018. That 2018 class featured multiple first-round NFL draft picks. They've obviously, contributed to some national title runs there. So I'm keeping an eye on them. LSU as well. If they can flip Bussey from Texas A&M, what happens? And then what about the Aggies? Let's assume they hold on to Terry Bussey. They get Ashton Bethel-Roman. He's been linked to Texas A&M ever since Mike Elko took over there. That would shoot them up to number 17 in the rankings. And then Baylor. You mentioned it with Ashton Bethel-Roman. They had him on campus. I think Houston could have a big day as well. Talking with someone inside their building this morning, new look Big 12, right? You got those a bunch of different programs in there. Willie Fritz coming over from Temple. So Houston, another team I'm keeping an eye on as well as we enter Wednesday.
Andrew, you hinted at LSU and their potential to not only land Terry Bussey, but obviously cross the finish line with that commitment from Dominic McKinley. How big would it be for Brian Kelly and that staff to close out this signing period with 2 monster additions like Bussey and McKinley?
Oh, it'd be huge, Blair, because LSU needs to get better on defense. 13th in the SEC in total defense last year. Yeah, they scored a ton of points with a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, but they couldn't stop a nosebleed at times there. You look at Dominique McKinley, you look at Terry Bussey. Those are two guys we saw at the Under Armour All-America game, and we walked away thinking they were some of the top dudes. That's when you want to sign guys where the arrow is pointing up. They not only had good senior seasons, but when it was best on best there in Orlando, they stood out. To me, Dominique McKinley, you think about the new defensive coordinator, Blake Baker, I think he fits that system. Blake Baker likes to create pressure from the interior. Dominique McKinley, I mean, he could be a big dancing bear in the middle, tons of developmental upside. And then Terry Bussey, again, is he a wide receiver? Is he a defensive back? Talked with someone in Baton Rouge this morning. They said they're going to let Terry Bussey do whatever he wants to do if he ends up there with the Tigers. But I have a hunch they like him in the secondary. I've always liked him in the secondary. My Oyster Boys co-host, Cooper Patagna, he's on the offensive side. But I think, look at LSU in that passing defense last year. I mean, they need an injection of talent. Terry Bussey, a guy we think could play as a true freshman, not only stood out at the Under Armour game. Blair, you saw him in Hawaii at the Polynesian Bowl, had an interception. I think he's ready day one to go. So that would be huge for the Tigers just because that defense is going to get better. And I think Blake Baker is the guy that can turn it around there in Baton Rouge.
All the LSU fans out there are saying, why not play him on both sides of the ball? It sounds like he can make an impact in both positions. An under-the-radar storyline headed into the signing day is not necessarily a good one. It is a celebration, of course, of these players signing their letters of intent. But some of these classes, I got to ask about UCLA in particular. They are set to sign their worst recruiting class in program history. What concerns you most about Chip Kelly's efforts on the trail right now?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's really talking about this. I mean, Chip Kelly, he was linked to multiple NFL jobs. You read social media X right now. Hey, what happens if Ohio State were to have an opening? I'm concerned about UCLA because they're moving into the Big Ten. And you look at this recruiting class. Yeah, they got Quasi Gilmore, a wide receiver in state. I like him a lot. Thought he had a great Polynesian Bowl. But this group, there's going to be long-term problems, I think, at UCLA. The transfer class isn't what it has been in previous years for the Bruins. And yes, we're going to get another window here in the spring. But how many dudes are they going to add? And at the end of the day, you still need to recruit through the high school ranks. UCLA was set to have a big weekend of visitors this past weekend. I heard a story of a prospect that was at the airport and UCLA canceled at the last minute his official visit. Take a look at that schedule moving forward. Yeah, they're going into the Big Ten. They also play an SEC team each of the next 5 seasons. You got LSU, then they got a home-and-home with Georgia and a home-and-home with Auburn. So I'm concerned just about the long-term trajectory at UCLA. Again, love Quasi Gilmore, a few other guys in the class, but man, something just doesn't sit right now at UCLA.
It's a bleak future out in Westwood. A lot of ominous clouds in Southern California. I don't know if you've been tracking the weather, but we're getting a lot of rain and you're just pouring it on, Andrew. But from the future perspective, the All-American Bowl is looking really bright. It was announced earlier today that the class of 2026 will now be able to also participate in the 2025 All-American Bowl. Break that down for us, Andrew.
Yeah, Blair, this is something that's actually been in the works now for a few weeks. And you go back to this 2024 All-American Bowl. We were scrambling, me and Eric Richards, the director of recruiting for the game, really until practices started to get guys into the game because we had people opting out and deciding to go through bowl practices with their schools. And we're all for that. Hey, man, if you can go and start getting your feet wet and helping your team potentially win a college football playoff, absolutely do that. But Blair, all 6 of our quarterback invites we initially had backed out. We had to extend 6 more, actually 13 total, just to get those guys in the game. I just think this is where the things are trending. It's become such a race to get to college. And you think about the college football playoff, it's not going to be 4 teams anymore. It's going to be 12 teams, and they're going to start a week earlier. So what we're seeing from these top prospects, yeah, they would love to be in San Antonio. They'd love to come out and compete, but it's just not becoming feasible. So in our eyes, all right, let's pivot to the junior class. right? See if we can get these guys in there. And I think it's going to create a situation where we're getting best on best. It's going to ramp up that level of competition. Think about it. Name, image, likeness is at an all-time high. If you're a top junior recruit, you need to play in this not only for evaluation purposes, but for your brand. So this is the decision we made with the All-American Bowl, and I'm fired up. I'm excited to see what these games look like moving forward.
Second week of January, San Antonio, Texas is going to be the place to be, and leading the coverage at 24/7 Sports will be the director of scouting, Andrew Ivins. Thank you so much for joining us. You're going to be able to catch him on Wednesday, wall-to-wall coverage of National Signing Day 2024 as we wrap up and put the bow on this class. Wednesday, February 7th, 2 to 5 Eastern here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel.
So Nick Saban retires, and immediately rumors of Dan Lanning being a potential replacement surface. Well, he shut that down real quick with this epic video declaring his intent to stay with the Ducks. And on that note, let's welcome in the star of that video and, of course, Oregon head coach Dan Lanning. Dan, thanks so much for being here with us.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Emily.
You said it best. The grass is damn green in Eugene. Why was it important for you to release that video?
Really, the guys that are on our team and recruiting, it was never, something that was really at the forefront of our mind other than, us making sure that we were able to take care of what existed right here. We were in the battle for a couple guys that we wanted on our team on board. I thought I need to make it really clear one more time that I'm not going anywhere. So that was the point.
Yeah, certainly very clear. But while we're on the topic, I got to ask about Nick Saban. I mean, whether you were working under him in 2015 or competing against him for prospects while at Georgia and now at Oregon, you have seen his recruiting prowess up close and personal. So what does the trail now look like without Nick Saban?
Well, I think, obviously what Coach Saban has done for the game of football, he changed it. He's, arguably, if not the greatest of all time to ever do it. So I think anybody in my seat just has to sit back with admiration and respect, recognizing what he was able to accomplish in his time there at Alabama. Just from my seat watching him, I think he's the definition of consistency. Every day, what he was willing to put into his program, the work that he put in to get great results. He's a great example of that.
You were a great example of that as well. I mean, you have an absolutely loaded class coming in this year, especially when it comes to that defensive line haul. But how much in general was the need to maybe get bigger up front because of the move to the Big Ten part of your strategy when you were putting this group together?
I think bigger and stronger up front is what wins football, regardless of what conference you're in or where you're playing. If you want to win games, it always starts up front. And so for us, it's about really, recruiting to what we think is going to create success on the football field. And everywhere I've been, that creates success on the football field.
Big picture, you're making this move to the Big Ten, now officially part of this conference. Big Ten and SEC have created an advisory group to, quote, address the significant changes facing college athletics. As a head coach, I mean, you see these problems firsthand. So what significant challenges do you maybe hope will be discussed in those meetings?
I'm just glad there's some being discussed. You wear a lot of hats right now as a head coach in college football, and I think it's a lot for me or someone else to be able to come out here and say, hey, here's what the rules need to be. But the reality is there's certainly some changes that probably need to take place, and hopefully they lean in on some coaches when they come to making some of those decisions and what it looks like. Because I think sometimes we make decisions about what should exist in college football, and we don't realize the ramifications until later. So, hopefully this certainly puts, in place some change and some opportunity to adapt. That's what college football is right now, is adapt and figure it out. And we're figuring out a lot of stuff on the fly.
Yeah, it seems like there is kind of this divide between the decision makers and the people who are actually going through what those decisions, the actual ramifications that they have. So how can they maybe lean on head coaches like you when establishing what the future of college football looks like?
Well, a phone call doesn't hurt, right? You just make a phone call. I mean, every rule change that happens in college ball, there's going to be ramifications. And sometimes it seems like we're, test dummies out there trying to figure it out, as opposed to maybe talking about what's the negatives of this rule or the positives of this rule. There's a lot of things that are really good about college football right now, and a lot of things that have changed for the better. But there are ramifications that exist. So we'll have to continue to adapt and adjust as they happen. But phone calls and conversations always help.
Certainly. When it comes to adapting and adjusting, we see the new age of college football involves a lot of the transfer portal, and you are no stranger to bringing in an experienced quarterback in the portal. I see the sign, the Bo sign behind you, had some success with Bo Nix coming in. But this cycle, you actually added two players I want to talk about, a guy with 1 year of experience in Dante Moore, and another getting ready to play his 6th season of college football in Dillon Gabriel. What was your strategy behind bringing in both of those talented arms?
Well, first you start with people. I think you're talking about two phenomenal people that we're really excited about. Certainly the experience and the talent that they have, but I think everyone knows in college football and in pro football, to win, you got to have a quarterback. And we feel good about what we have on the roster, but our goal is always to have, 4 guys in that quarterback room that can go compete, and 4 scholarship guys that can go compete. And both of these guys, Dante and Dillon, both provide us that ability to continue to enhance that room and create competition so we can compete at the highest level.
Yeah, it says a lot that both of those guys wanted to come in too, not knowing a clear path to the starting lineup, knowing that they would have to compete. I think that says a lot. We were talking a little bit off air about this. Dante Moore, what was once a unique situation is now becoming more and more common, and that he flipped his recruitment from Oregon, but then after a year became available in the portal, and you got him the second time around. So what is your message now to recruits who maybe flip or pick another school, knowing that they could show up in the portal later on in the process?
We just build relationships. And I think, the proof's in the pudding. What we've been able to do here and accomplish at Oregon, speaks for itself. We want guys that want to be a part of that. And sometimes that journey is going to look a little bit different. It's going to make for an interesting book for Dante when he writes it someday, how his journey, happened. But ultimately, I think at the end of the day, he saw what we have here, saw what we had here before, and realized that a lot of the things that, he went out on a limb, and didn't know what it would look like, early in his college career. But now you can see a little bit of what Oregon does look like. What's it become? And that's probably the reason he chose to come back here.
That says a lot, what you were able to accomplish on the field. But how do you maybe tangibly build and foster those relationships even after a player picks another school?
Well, after they pick another school, you really can't, right? But I think you can be true to who you are, through that process, and do a great job with your players. These players talk to each other. And if you do a great job of building relationships with the guys on your team and guys in recruiting, sometimes they're going to make different decisions and they're going to end up different places. But if you leave that relationship the right way, there's now an opportunity in college football that it can be reconnected down the road.
100%. Before we let you go, I got to ask, what's your favorite Jason Bourne movie?
I'm not like an expert. That's why I was watching this. The first one, I don't know what that. I think that's Bourne Ultimatum. That's about as good as it gets.
Well, we know that you love to watch, and you stick with where you are too, which is what Oregon fans are happy to see. And thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate the time.
You bet. Thank you. Have a great one.
Fun highlights there from the Reese's Senior Bowl over the weekend. Here to talk a little bit more about the process is Smoke Dixon, our national college football analyst, who, as we have established, but I would like to reestablish, has experience kind of on both sides of this. And we want to talk about first just the opportunity that is there for prospects at the Senior Bowl. How much can this either hurt or help their draft stock going to an event like this?
Well, the first thing that we don't want to do is put too much emphasis on this week, because this has been a process.
Yeah.
But this is the part that you want to get to. The first impression is the lasting impression, and it's the best impression. But this can really, really help your draft stock in terms of going up or down, especially in the specialized positions, quarterbacks. You want to see a quarterback come in, be able to handle the room. When they first come in, most likely they're going to move with the room. When they leave, you want to see them move the room in their ability to lead, concept, and applications for all the coaching tools that they've gotten for the entire week.
I love that you are emphasizing the entire week. It's not just the game that you saw the highlights. It's practices, it's meetings, it's interviews. So on the other side of things, you once worked in the Bills front office. You understand just how valuable this can be from the NFL side. Why is the Senior Bowl week so important for what you need to do as you get ready for the draft?
Because most of your answers that you've gotten to the questions that you were asking yourself or your scouts on the road were things that you couldn't really get to. And those are practice settings, meeting settings. We always say the reason why we want to go to practice or Senior Bowls or bowl games in itself is to get the information that you can collect on film. Mm-hmm. And that's how do they handle adversity? How are they really, really good when things are really bad? How fast can I get through that and correct myself? And throughout the week, you'll see a guy that come in, start out on the low end and get to the high end. Or you see a Brahma bull that comes in, grab that head by the bull by the head, and just rides it for the entire week.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about the guy that rides it for the entire week and helps his draft stock. What can you do from a player perspective to make yourself a top performer coming out of this week?
You want to show consistent growth. Every single day that you walk into a room, you want day 1 to turn into day 2, day 2 to turn into day 3, and just keep on growing. You want to be able to be coachable and consistently be coachable along the way, because there's a lot of things that happen and a coach might talk to you in a different way that you might not understand, but understand that information and take it. Mm-hmm. And also be the person that can go in and lead in the drills. And that's not leading by talking, but that's just leading by action. And when you get corrected, be able to just stand on it and say, you know what, I was wrong, and be honest along the way and improve. The word of the week is improvement. The longer you show growth, the better it'll be for you.
The fun part about this draft process is that, it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. There are things you can do to help, but there are also things you can do to hurt. So as it pertains to the Senior Bowl, what are some things that players do that hurt their draft stock?
The number one thing is being an excuse maker. When you're wrong, stand on it. And be honest in your answer. If you don't understand, just flat out look the coach and coach, I don't understand what you just explained. But other than BSing your way through the process of it and then getting it wrong, that's what it is. Most scouts and coaches ask you questions that I already know the answer to. Mm-hmm. So the second that you give them an answer that's incorrect, they'll take it and be like, okay, but that's another knock on you. And again, the person that's coachable for the entire week, that's who wins. So go in with not knowing and come out with a lot of information in terms of application to the information that you got.
I love it. Some great advice, some great perspective. That's why we bring this man on. We got more smart people like Smoke Dixon contributing to our website, 247sports.com. Make sure that you are keeping it locked in. I believe we have a 75% off deal running right now on VIP memberships. I always tell you that's where you get the good, juicy information, so highly recommend you take advantage of that. From the NFL draft process to the recruitment process, we are getting ready to welcome on a defensive line talent from Chicago. Mikeshun Beeler is set to make his commitment live on this show. The defensive lineman has over 30 offers from all across the country, but has somehow whittled it down to his finalists: Colorado, Georgia Tech, Indiana, Michigan State, and Oregon. Let's head out to Simeon and welcome in Mikeshun. Before we get to your announcement, first tell us, what has this recruiting process been like for you?
I had a different type of recruiting process. It was definitely stressful some days, but you go figure out who you are in this process. Just listening to the coaches, taking in what I want to hear, and taking in what I don't want to hear. And just seeing who's been there the whole time. Some coaches offer you and they leave. Some coaches offer and they stay. So mainly just seeing what you need.
Mikeshun, you go through this recruiting process not alone, and we see several people there with you at your ceremony. Who is accompanying you on your big day?
On my right, I have my mom. On my left, I have my grandmother. And on my other left, I got my coach. Coach Hunter, he was our DC and our head coach.
All right. Well, I'm sure they are just like all of us, and we are so excited to find out where you're headed. So you have the floor. Tell us where you have picked to play your college ball.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank my family and every coach and everybody who trained me to help me get here. With that being said, for the next 3 to 4 years, I'll be attending. Michigan's going to be a first.
There you have it. Breaking news. Mikeshun Beeler has committed to Michigan State. A very exciting congratulations to you. I know that you walked us through the process. This is never easy, but tell us, why did you pick Michigan State?
I picked Michigan State because when I went to Michigan State, I took a visit. I felt like home. We was in the coach's office, and my mom literally texted like commit. Like, I feel like this is home. I feel like this is the best for you. But I already felt that when I stepped foot on campus. The coaches, they were true to me. They were real to me. Coach Langy, Coach Rossi, they got me that 3 technique, and that's what I'm living at.
New coaching staff with Jonathan Smith there at the helm in East Lansing. And when you look about the future and you think about how you fit into that defense, in your own words, what kind of player is Michigan State getting?
I'll get one of the best defensive linemen in the Big Ten. I'm going to come there, I'm going to play fast, I'm going to play off field, and I'm going to do what they need me to do.
Wow. Okay, we love to see that. Before we let you go, there's a lot of green in our YouTube chat right now. I think there's a lot of Spartans fans out there who are very excited to get your services here in the next couple years. So what is your message to those fans watching?
Excuse me, I'd like to give a thanks to Coach Demetrius Martin. He was recruiting me at Oregon, and we came to Michigan State. He did not stop recruiting me, so I want to give a shout out to him too. He was a big reason for me coming to Michigan State. But the fans, just know y'all gonna see a lot of sex.
Oh, we gotta explain what that is. Like,
We gotta explain.
I would basically just, do what the defense want to do. I'm gonna get sex, we'll get types of balls. Y'all can expect a lot.
I love it. Mikeshun, congratulations. Thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of your big day. Go celebrate. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love it. A huge congratulations there to Mikeshun Beeler officially committing to Michigan State. Blair, we love when we see the live commitments. We got a few live commitments coming up on Wednesday, too, for our National Signing Day show. And that's one of our favorite things to do. And yeah, look at that. National Signing Day coming up Wednesday, 2 to 5 o'clock. That means 3 whole hours making sure that we tie the bow on National Signing Day. Blair, you have been putting together a lot of great work ahead of National Signing Day, because here at 24/7 Sports, while we do celebrate the day, we also celebrate the week. So you've been getting people ready to go with all of your team site breakdowns. What's a little preview that you can tell us? What are you anticipating that we see on Wednesday? Anything?
I think obviously it's a culmination, right? It's the finish line of what this whole recruiting process has been like. And although the early signing period has taken a lot of the luster off of this traditional signing day in February, I think there's still a lot to be gained. And some of these players, like Keone Wilhite, who sounds like he will be revealing his commitment with us on Wednesday live from South Point Catholic down there in Tucson, Arizona. It's one of those things where he is now trying to figure out where he's going to go, and it's a mad dash towards the finish line. He had been signed to Washington earlier in the process. We answered a viewer question last week about where he might be leaning. It was UCLA. It sounds like Nebraska now has kind of taken charge with all the uncertainty surrounding Chip Kelly. So that's one to watch for, and it's going to be an exciting day, not only for a lot of recruits, but for a lot of fan bases.
We're certainly looking forward to it. I had to stall a little bit because I'm bringing up this prop. Blair, I know you have many props in the background of your shot. I've just added this one. Check it out. Wow. Our own 24/7 Sports helmet. This is courtesy of Preston Battle of Battle Customs. Just want to give a huge shout out to him. Thank you so much for putting this together. You got all the stars. In case you're wondering, it's exactly 32 stars are on this helmet. So he knows what our 5 stars mean here at 24/7 Sports. Blair, enjoy a couple days off, and we'll check back in with you next week after National Signing Day. Once again, do not forget to tune in on Wednesday at 2 o'clock Eastern for our National Signing Day show. Blair told you about a live commitment that we're going to have. We'll have another one as well. We have positional breakdowns, conference superlatives. Again, this is our goal, just to tie a nice bow on the class of 2024. And then on Thursday, we'll look ahead to 25. So make sure that you are subscribed to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. A lot is happening this week for National Signing Day.